Can a single spark of courage ignite a blaze that topples a fortress of corruption built to stand forever? Imagine Precinct 18, a place where badges are twisted into weapons of cruelty, where evidence vanishes like mist, and even judges kneel to the whims of crooked cops. For 20 years, they've perfected their sinister game, every false arrest a calculated strike, every bribe meticulously logged, every witness crushed into silence. Then they dared to arrest Eleanor Davis. They saw a fragile 78-year-old retired teacher, just another black woman to intimidate in the wealthy white enclave of Oakwood Heights. A quick 24-hour processing, then swept away, that was their cold plan. Oh, how gravely they misjudged. They handed her a front-row seat to their rotten empire, every hushed plot, every dirty deal, every crime laid bare before her unyielding gaze. What they didn't know. Eleanor Davis had spent 4 decades teaching generations to stand tall against injustice. Now, with one phone call to her son, the U.S. Attorney General, she's poised to deliver the most devastating lesson these officers will ever face. The most dangerous witness is the one you never see coming. Before we dive deeper, drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from today? If this story of grit and justice sets your heart racing, smash that subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode is one you won't dare miss. The late afternoon sun spills golden shadows across the gleaming aisles of Thompson's Market, an upscale grocery nestled in the heart of Oakwood Heights, where wealth and privilege reign supreme. Eleanor Davis, 78, adjusts her pearl necklace, a treasured retirement gift from her students, her weathered fingers brushing it as she inspects fresh produce with quiet care. Her silver hair shimmers under the lights, her posture radiating the unshakable dignity that once commanded classrooms for over 40 years. Can you feel her quiet power? The store's fluorescent glow dances off polished floors, its sterile air mirroring the snooty shoppers who glide past, their wealth on display. Eleanor catches their sidelong glances, their whispers of judgment, but she brushes them off. She's called the city home longer than most of them have lived. Officers Brad Mitchell and Kyle Harris loom by the entrance, their presence a dark cloud in the bright store, more menacing than protective. Mitchell, a stocky figure with close-cropped blonde hair and cold blue eyes that pierce like ice, nudges Harris, his voice low, venomous. Look at her.
She doesn't belong here.
Harris, younger, hungry to prove his worth, stiffens his spine.
Wanna check it out?
Their boots thud deliberately on the tiles as they stalk toward Eleanor, who's calmly eyeing a bunch of organic bananas, her shoulders tensing ever so slightly, yet her face remains serene. Why are they zeroing in on her?
Ma'am.
Mitchell's voice drips with fake courtesy, grating Eleanor's nerves like chalk on a blackboard. We've got complaints about suspicious activity in the store. Eleanor sets the bananas down with deliberate grace, her movements slow, like a teacher facing a defiant student. I'm just shopping, officer. I've lived in this city for over 50 years. Really? Harris sneers, his skepticism thick as tar. You shop here often?
I go where he please, young man.
Eleanor retorts, her teacher's tone rising, firm and unshaken. This market has what I need for my Sunday dinner. Store manager Thomas Parker slinks over, his starched shirt barely hiding his unease, his eyes darting nervously between the cops and Eleanor, his choice of sides clear as day. She's been wandering for nearly an hour, he lies boldly, though Eleanor stepped through the doors just 20 minutes ago. Customers are concerned. Eleanor's grip tightens on her purse strap. How dare he twist the truth?
Déteste non-sens.
I just arrived, and I've got my parking meter receipt to prove it. Mitchell steps closer, crowding her, his voice a low growl. Let's see ID, ma'am. As Eleanor reaches for her purse, steady despite the tension, Mitchell grabs her arm with brutal force, yanking her back. She stumbles, gasping, and before she can steady herself, he shoves her with a vicious push. Eleanor crashes into a display of oranges, the fruit tumbling chaotically across the floor. Stop resisting. Mitchell roars, though she hasn't moved a muscle except to brace her fall. I'm not, she begins, her voice steady but cut off as Harris yanks her arms behind her, cold handcuffs biting into her wrists.
Can you feel the outrage?
Near the checkout, young Jordan Carter, a black man with fire in his eyes, pulls out his phone, hands trembling with fury but steady as he records the injustice unfolding before him. Mitchell spots him, charging over like a raging bull. Delete that video now.
I know my rights.
Jordan snaps, defiant, but Mitchell twists his arm cruelly, snatching the phone, forcing Jordan to erase the footage. Delete it or you're coming downtown, he snarls, shoving the phone back, watching Jordan's shoulders slump in bitter defeat. Eleanor's heart aches, her wise eyes, scarred by a lifetime of such cruelties, taking in every moment, yet her dignity stands unbreakable. Harris hauls her up roughly, shoppers turning away, the manager fussing over scattered oranges as if they're the real tragedy.
You want your supervisor.
Eleanor declares, her voice slicing through the hushed store like a bell.
Micheleslo gis cruel, jagged à broken glass.
Lady, you'll be lucky if we don't tack on assaulting an officer. They march her out, past stunned cashiers and customers suddenly obsessed with their carts, their silence deafening. Outside, the golden dusk should draw folks to porches, but the sidewalks are eerily deserted as the officers shove Eleanor toward their patrol car. She notices their body cams, dark, lifeless, betraying their intent. Your cameras aren't on, she points out, her voice calm, piercing. Technical difficulties.
Harris smirks, sharing a sly, knowing glance with Mitchell.
What are they scheming? The drive to Precinct 18 is a slow, winding torment, designed to unnerve her. They take pointless detours, stretching a 15-minute trip into a grueling hour. Eleanor sits silent in the back, her sharp mind memorizing every street, every turn, every detail that could tip the scales later.
Inside the prochain, arch fluorescent lights buzz, casting stark shadow on worn linoleum floor. The booking area reeks of stale coffee and dépert, à place where op frais.
Mitchell scrawls his report with theatrical glee, chuckling as he weaves a web of lies. Let's see, he mutters, loud enough for her to hear. Subject got combative, tried to swing at me, resisted arrest. Eleanor sits ramrod straight in a hard plastic chair, wrists still cuffed behind her, her voice unwavering. Those are lies, and you know it. A desk sergeant shuffles over, coffee cup in hand, barely glancing her way, his indifference chilling.
What is this?
Disturbing the peace, resisting arrest, assault on an officer. Mitchell rattles off, each charge more absurd than the last. Had to take her down when she went wild on a produce display. The sergeant nods, uninterested, his apathy a slap. Book her.
Chief Callahan en dis paperwork spotl. Eleanor es prick at Callahan es name, locking it away like a secret weapon.
She watches the sergeant amble off, dismissing her as if she's a ghost. They take her fingerprints with cruel force, jamming each finger against the scanner, their roughness meant to break her spirit. Her mugshot captures her unyielding resolve, head high, eyes blazing, dignity radiating despite the cuffs. I want my phone call, she demands, her voice cutting through the precinct's hum as they lead her to the holding cells.
Micheles log et show of concrete walls, archen mocking.
Maybe tomorrow, if we ain't swamped.
Night shift is short. You know how it goes.
The cell is bleak, cold metal bench, exposed toilet, the door slamming with a clang that'd rattle anyone less steadfast. Eleanor sits, spine straight, mind razor-sharp, undaunted by the cell's chill. She hears the officers' footsteps fade, their laughter as they plan their night, carefree in their arrogance. Mitchell's voice carries, calling someone, Chief Callahan no doubt, to boast that it's all handled clean.
Through the night, she watch, her teacher's eyes missing nothing.
Officers pass, some avoiding her gaze, others glaring with raw hostility. She notes files slipped into a back room, hushed talks in shadowed corners, the night shift's casual ease, certain their deeds are untouchable.
Can you censor qui est vigilance?
In the early morning's hush, when the precinct lies still, she overhears two officers plotting another arrest. Same as the old lady. One brags, his voice smug. Cams off, report clean, judge rubber stamps it, done. Eleanor closes her eyes, not in despair but in icy calculation. They've no clue who they've crossed. Her thoughts turn to her son Malcolm, the U.S. Attorney General, his power a thunderbolt waiting to strike their schemes. These cops thought they'd play their tired game, but they've just made the gravest error of their lives. As dawn's soft light creeps through high windows, Eleanor sits in her cell, crafting the testimony that'll topple this corrupt machine. They gave her a front-row view of their filthy empire, never dreaming her mind, honed by decades of teaching and a lifetime battling injustice, would catalog every name, every act, every violation with surgical precision. The morning shift bustles in, coffee brewing, chatter light as if no storm looms. Mitchell clocks out, his voice drifting as he mocks the troublemaker in cell 3. Oh, how blind he is, the real tempest's brewing, and Eleanor Davis is its unyielding heart, ready to teach a lesson that'll echo through history. Can the quiet courage of one woman unravel a web of corruption woven over decades? Picture Eleanor Davis, her spirit unbroken in a cold precinct cell, her sharp mind cataloging every vile act of Precinct 18's officers. Through it all, she holds her dignity like a shield, her resolve a blazing fire, her awareness a weapon honed by years of fighting injustice. Every mocking laugh, every careless comment, every law they trample is another nail in their coffin. They thought they'd teach this 78-year-old black woman to stay in her place. Oh, how wrong they were. Instead, they've armed her with the evidence to deliver a final earth-shaking lesson about justice, power, and the cost of underestimating a former teacher who's battled systems like theirs her whole life. The stage is set for a showdown that'll rock the department to its core, and these fools don't even see it coming.
Can you feel the storm brewing?
As dawn's first light pierces the precinct's high windows, Eleanor allows a small, fierce smile to cross her lips. They've handed her everything, a front-row seat to their corrupt empire and the burning drive to tear it down. She sits alert in her bleak holding cell, every sense sharp, soaking up every scrap of damning information. The morning shift brings fresh faces, new voices, and more proof of the rot seeping through every corner of Precinct 18. Officer Mitchell's voice echoes down the corridor, smug as he wraps up his shift report. Keep that old lady locked tight, till we get the paperwork squared.
No complications, you hear.
Eleanor peers through the cell bars, her teacher's eyes missing nothing, her heart steady despite the cuffs still biting her wrists. She watches a knot of officers cluster near the coffee machine, their chatter slicing through the morning quiet. Detective James Wilson, a heavy-set man with thinning gray hair, waves his hands wildly, chuckling as he brags to two younger cops. "You won't believe how easy it is," he crows, stirring his coffee with a smirk. Slip a little something in their car, and bam, that routine stops a big bust. Department scores a win, we pocket bonuses, everybody's happy.
Et sip, grinning.
Well, everybody who counts, anyway. A rookie, fresh-faced and uneasy, shifts on his feet. But what about body cams? Kid, technical glitches happen all the time. Wilson winks, his voice oily. Malfunction, dead battery, corrupted footage. Just ask Mitchell about last night's arrest. Eleanor's mind locks onto their faces, their badge names, Wilson, Jenkins, Rodriguez, every detail a weapon for later. Her hands may be bound, but her mind's a steel trap, cataloging their corruption with a teacher's precision. How can they be so brazen? Down the hall, Shift Sergeant Patrick Walsh's voice rumbles, reviewing reports with a subordinate. Mitchell's write-up on the Davis arrest needs work. Tweak it, make it cleaner, more convincing. Add a witness statement from that store manager, Parker. Get him to sign whatever we hand him. Done. Another voice replies, smug. Parker's got shoplifting complaints at his store, wouldn't want those dug up, would he? Eleanor's jaw tightens, blackmail, lies, all in a day's work for these men. Her cell's near the evidence room, a perfect perch to watch the officers' comings and goings. She sees Wilson slip in with a cardboard box labeled Evidence Case NRA 4789. Through the half-open door, her keen eyes catch him swapping items, tampering with evidence, resealing it with care. How deep does this rot go? A female officer, Detective Lisa Carter, her badge reads, passes Eleanor's cell, her steps slowing, her face flickering with concern, maybe guilt. Unlike the others, her eyes hold a shadow of doubt. She moves to the evidence room, where Wilson's still at work. You can't keep doing this, James. Lisa's voice carries, sharp and urgent, to Eleanor's ears.
Someones gonna notice one day.
Wilson's laugh is cold, dismissive. 15 years, Lisa, and nobody's blinked. Nobody cares to notice. Chief Callahan sure doesn't, long as our numbers shine. Lisa's reply is cut off as Officer Harris bursts in, jittery with nervous energy. Chief wants last night's body cam footage wiped.
Direct order from above.
Above.
Lisa snaps, incredulou. The mayor.
Harris lowers his voice, but Eleanor's ears catch every word. Judge Whitaker called himself. Says this needs to vanish, completely. Eleanor's eyebrows lift. A judge in on the cover-up? Another layer to this vile machine. She closes her eyes, feigning sleep, but her mind races, soaking up Harris's next words. Whitaker says we gotta make this case stick.
No loose ends. Wilson jump in, quick and sharp.
What about that kid with the phone? Mitchell caught him recording. Handled. Harris boasts. We've got his details, one wrong step, and he's facing heavy charges. Eleanor's heart aches for Jordan Carter, that brave young man, but her resolve hardens. These men will pay for every cruelty. All morning, Eleanor watches a parade of officers slip in and out of the evidence room, clutching files, evidence bags, each one a cog in this well-oiled corruption machine. They tweak reports, erase footage, fabricate evidence, all while joking about weekend barbecues, as if justice is just another chore. Can you believe their arrogance? Around noon, the precinct's mood shifts. Chief Bob Callahan arrives, his presence like a dark storm cloud. Officers snap to attention, their nervous glances betraying fear. Eleanor peers through her bars, watching Callahan stride down the corridor, his silver hair gleaming, his uniform pristine, his authority absolute. He stops at the sergeant's desk, his voice edged with worry. Mayor's office called, wants this locked down tight.
All set, chief.
Walsh assures, his tone eager. Mitchell's report's clean, body cam footage is gone, witness statements back our story. Good. Callahan nods, his eyes hard.
Judge Whitaker's fast-tracking the paperwork.
We need this buried quick before anyone pokes around.
Eleanor's pulse kickant. Mayor Kensington, Judge Whitaker, Alt Anglais d'Indice.
Callahan's phone rings, and she watches his face shift from smug to tense.
Yes, Monsieur Mayor.
No, sir, it's under control. Whitaker's on it personally. Yes, sir, I get the stakes. He hangs up, barking orders to gather senior officers in his office. Eleanor can't see them, but their voices drift through the vents to her cell.
Listen up.
Callahan growls, his tone tight. Kensington wants this contained. If word leaks about this precinct's dealings, we're done. The Davis arrest has to be airtight, no slip-ups, no loose ends. What about store security footage? Someone asks. Handled, another replies. Technical glitch, yesterday's tapes are gone.
Eleanor ihr Papers Rustle, den Callahan again.
I'm meeting the mayor and Whitaker at Morton's Steakhouse tonight. Gotta align our story before this goes further. The meeting drags on, officers plotting to scrub cases, vanish evidence, their corruption laid bare. Eleanor sits still, her teacher's mind a vault, storing every name, every detail, every sin. As afternoon fades to evening, Lisa Carter passes her cell again, pausing, her face torn. She checks the corridor, then steps to the bars, voice low.
Mrs. Davis, you okay? Need anything?
Eleanor's gaze is steady, piercing. I need my phone call. It's been over 24 hours. Lisa hesitates, conflict etched in her eyes, then slips out a cell phone. Quick. If anyone asks, this didn't happen. Eleanor's fingers are steady as she dials Malcolm. He answers fast, voice frantic.
Mom, where are you?
I've been trying to reach you.
Malcolm.
Eleanor's voice is clear, urgent. They're hiding something massive at Precinct 18, something that reaches the top. What?
Où est-ce d'un what? Where are you?
Precinct 18, she says, eyeing Lisa's nervous glances.
Son, list and close.
These people think they're untouchable, but they're sloppy cocky. I've seen enough in 24 hours to bury this department.
Malcolm S. Gaspé chaud. Prochain 18.
Stay put, Mom.
Don't sign anything, don't talk, I'm coming. No.
Eleanor's voice is iron.
Don't come yourself. Send your team. This is bigger than my arrest.
Judges the mayor, they're destroying evidence right now. Lisa taps her shoulder, footsteps near. Eleanor rushes, Malcolm, it's huge. She hands the phone back just as Officer Mitchell appears, his face twisting into a sneer. Cozying up to the prisoner, Carter? Lisa stands tall.
Just a welfare check, protocol.
Mitchell's laugh is vile. Protocol? Since when do we give a damn about that? After Lisa slips away, Mitchell leans on the bars, his voice a low threat. Enjoying your stay, Mrs. Davis? Whitaker's gonna make sure it's a long one.
Eleanor mit his gas, unflinching. Every hour here, he watch you break the law.
His face flushes red. Keep talking, old lady. Accidents happen in custody. But Eleanor sees it, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. She's been too quiet, too watchful, catching their careless whispers. Night cloaks Precinct 18, the air shifting tense. Officers scurry, their steps urgent, voices hushed, fretting over the chief's meeting with the mayor and judge. Eleanor sits in her cell, a seemingly frail woman who's seen it all. They gave her a front-row view of their corruption, never suspecting her mind, sharpened by decades of teaching, forged in a lifetime of fighting injustice, would hold every detail like a blade. The storm's coming, and Eleanor Davis is its unyielding heart, ready to teach a lesson that'll echo through history. Can the unyielding spirit of one woman shatter a corrupt empire that's thrived in the shadows for decades? In the dim chill of her Precinct 18 cell, Eleanor Davis lets a small defiant smile flicker across her lips. These officers thought they'd teach her a lesson, a 78-year-old black woman, about staying in her place. Oh, how blind they are. Instead, they've handed her the keys to their downfall, proof of their crimes, evidence of their corruption, and a direct line to the very system they've twisted to shield themselves. A storm's brewing, and they're oblivious to its fury. But Eleanor knows, by this time tomorrow her son, the U.S. Attorney General, will wield the truth like a thunderbolt to rip their rotten world apart. They made a fatal mistake, underestimating a retired teacher who spent her life battling injustice.
Can you feel the seismic shift coming?
Malcolm Davis sits in his Washington, D.C. office, his mother's urgent words echoing in his mind. They're hiding something huge here. His fingers drum on the polished mahogany desk, his heart pounding as he grapples with her call's weight. As U.S. Attorney General, he rarely dives into local police matters, but this?
This is personal.
Sarah, he shouts to his chief of staff, voice sharp with resolve.
Get me everything on procès 18 every last detail.
Sarah Williams, a razor-sharp woman in her 40s who stood by Malcolm for over a decade, springs into action.
I'm pulling a team together now.
Want me to loop in the local FBI? Not yet. Malcolm's tone is steady, controlled, but his eyes burn with purpose. Let's figure out what we're up against first. Sarah, nobody outside this room knows, not until we're ready. Within an hour, his office transforms into a war room. Analysts swarm over precinct records, financials, complaint logs, their faces grim as a chilling pattern emerges, skyrocketing civil asset seizures, a flood of dismissed complaints, and body cams that fail with suspicious regularity. How deep does this rot run? Sir, an analyst calls, her voice urgent. You gotta see this. She pulls up a spreadsheet on her laptop, numbers glaring. Precinct 18's arrest rates for minorities are triple the city's average, but their convictions are near perfect. That's impossible unless they're faking evidence. Malcolm finishes, his jaw clenching so tight it hurts.
Keep digging.
His desk phone rings, a secure line for only the most sensitive matters. Davis, he snaps.
Mayor Kensington's voice slither through, dripping fake sympathy.
Mr. Attorney General, I just heard about an unfortunate incident with your mother.
It's all a misunderstanding.
We'll release her right away with our deepest apologies. Malcolm's laugh is icy, cutting.
Too late, Mayor Kensington.
Your call just confirmed you're neck deep in this. Thanks for that. The mayor's gasp is audible, panic creeping in. Let's not rush into anything. We can work this out, make it good for everyone. The only thing good for everyone is a full probe into your precinct's dirty tricks.
Malcolm Rotor.
It starts today. He slams the phone down, turning to Sarah. Get Judge Thompson on the federal circuit. We need warrants now. Across town, Detective Lisa Carter sits in her parked car outside Precinct 18, her hands trembling as she clutches a USB drive, years of secret evidence. Deleted body cam footage she salvaged, falsified reports she copied, recordings of bribes and cover-ups. Her heart races, she's been waiting for the right moment, the right ally. Her phone buzzes, a text from Officer Mitchell. Chief wants us in early tomorrow.
Big meeting on the Davis mess.
Lisa grips the drive, her decision made. She drives to a coffee shop 3 towns away, heart pounding, uses their public Wi-Fi, and fires off an encrypted email to the Attorney General's office. Then she weaves home through back roads, eyes darting to her rear view, ensuring no one tails her. Is she safe? Back in D.C., Malcolm pores over Lisa's files, his blood boiling. Videos show cops planting drugs, audio captures bribe deals, spreadsheets lay bare a protection racket bleeding local businesses dry. But one detail makes him bolt upright. Look at this. He jabs at bank transfer records. Every time Judge Whitaker tosses a Precinct 18 case, a fat deposit hits an offshore account tied to his wife's maiden name. Sarah nods, her voice grim. There's more. The mayor's skimming civil asset forfeitures, laundering it through a shell company for city projects. Malcolm strides to the window, staring out at the city's glow, his voice low, furious. They got sloppy.
Tout cosy, tout coquille.
He spins back to his team.
Let's hitting hard.
He dials a rarely used number, voice like steel.
D.C. Attorney General Davis.
I need federal marshals ready in an hour.
Get me FBI Director Phillips, now.
The gears of federal law grind into motion. Teams assemble, warrants are drafted, surveillance units encircle Precinct 18. Malcolm watches, timing critical. Can they strike fast enough? At Precinct 18, Chief Bob Callahan's in a full-blown panic. Words reached him, Eleanor Davis is the Attorney General's mother. His carefully built world teeters on collapse. He paces his office, sweat beading, phone glued to his ear. We gotta get rid of her. Judge Whitaker's voice crackles, cold and urgent. Move her to max security, lose her in the system for a few days. We'll clean this up. Callahan wipes his brow, voice shaky. What if the feds come sniffing? They'll find nothing.
Whitaker snaps.
We've done this before. But Callahan's gut twists. They've never faced someone like Eleanor, never had the Attorney General's eyes on them. He hangs up, summoning officers Mitchell and Harris, his voice harsh.
Transfer the Davis woman tonight, state prison, max security. Mitchell S. Widen.
Sir, that ain't standard for. Since when do you give a damn about standard?
Callahan embarque.
Do it. Unseen, Lisa Carter lurks outside his office, phone recording every word. The meeting ends, and she fires another encrypted email to Malcolm's team. Is she risking everything? Malcolm gets the alert as he's about to leave, Sarah bursting in, face pale.
Sir.
They're moving your mom tonight, max security.
No way in hell.
Malcolm's voice is iron, fury blazing in his eyes. He grabs his phone.
Exécutez the warrant now.
Across the city, federal agents swarm into action. Teams surround Precinct 18, others race to the homes of Whitaker, Kensington, and Callahan. The net's closing, tight and fast. Inside her cell, Eleanor hears the precinct hum with frantic activity, hurried footsteps, nervous whispers. Mitchell appears, transfer papers in hand, sneering.
Time for a trip, old lady.
But his bravado's thin, fear glinting in his eyes. Before he can unlock her cell, the front doors explode open. Federal marshals flood in, weapons drawn, badges flashing. Federal agents.
Nobody move.
Chaos erupts, precise and relentless. Officers are split up, phones and computers seized, files locked down before anyone can shred them. Mitchell slammed face down, cuffed by a marshal showing none of the cruelty he dished out to Eleanor. Callahan bolts for his office, aiming for the shredder that saved him before, but he's tackled 3 steps in, his empire crumbling. Eleanor sits calmly in her cell, her silver hair catching the flickering lights, watching justice finally catch these men who thought they were gods. Her cell door swings open, not Mitchell or Harris, but a federal marshal, respect shining in his eyes.
Mrs. Davis, we're here to escort you out.
Eleanor rises, smoothing her clothes with unshakable dignity, her spirit towering. As she walks through the precinct, she sees her patience bear fruit, officers in cuffs, evidence boxed, computers carted off. Her gaze meets Lisa Carter's across the chaos, and she offers a slight nod gratitude for a brave ally. Outside, news crews swarm, cameras flashing as agents lead out the once untouchable officers.
Eleanor steps into the evening air, head-eye, spirit unbroken, the city's pulse strumming around her.
Malcolm waits by a black SUV, his cool facade cracking as he sees his mother. "Mom!" He chokes, rushing to embrace her, his heart in his eyes.
Are you okay? Âme fine, son.
Eleanor pats his cheek, her voice warm but fierce. But we've got work ahead. I've seen enough in there to keep your office busy for months. Malcolm helps her into the SUV, then turns to his team, voice commanding.
Every piece of evidence cataloged, every computer cracked, every file scored.
Nobody rests till we know the full scope. As they drive from Precinct 18, Eleanor watches more federal vehicles roll in. She spots Mayor Kensington led from City Hall in cuffs, his swagger gone, disbelief etched on his face.
News shopper buzz overhead, spotlight piercing the drama.
They never saw it coming.
Eleanor murmure, satisfaction la senior voice.
All that power, all that corruption, undone by underestimating an old woman. Malcolm smiles, hearing that teacher's tone he grew up with. They gave you 24 hours to watch their operation. That was their fatal mistake. One of many. Eleanor agrees, her eyes gleaming. But there's more, Malcolm. What I saw, what I heard, it's bigger than this precinct. Judges, politicians, business tycoons, they're all in it. We'll root them all out. Malcolm vows, his voice iron.
Every last one.
The SUV speeds toward the federal building, where investigators await. Eleanor sits tall, her mind already sorting the evidence she'll lay bare. For decades, she taught young minds to think, to question, to fight for right. Now she'll teach a final, unforgettable lesson to those who forgot justice is relentless. Across the city, phones ring as corrupt officials feel the noose tighten. Judge Whittaker cancels dinner, dialing his lawyer in a panic.
Kensington's head shred, pas peur sa agence stormine.
Callahan sits in a cell like Eleanor's, stunned, wondering how it unraveled so fast. They know deep down, they bet on power equaling immunity, their badges and titles a shield. They forgot justice can strike from the least expected source, a 78-year-old teacher who's prepped others to fight for decades. As night cloaks the city, Eleanor stands watch from the federal building, her silver hair glowing under office lights, as investigators tear through her and Lisa's evidence, building a case to shake the city's core. They'll fight back. Malcolm warns, beside her at the window. Eleanor's smile is serene, the one that lifted countless students.
Let's try.
We've got what they'll never have.
What is that?
The truth, she says, voice steady. And I've learned, after all these years, the truth, when wielded right, is the mightiest weapon of all. Can this truth reshape a city?
Can the key resolve of one woman's spark a révolution des top la corrupte empire?
In the shadowed confines of her Precinct 18 cell, Eleanor Davis's heart beat steady, her small smile a beacon of defiance. These officers thought they'd crush her spirit, teach a 78-year-old black woman her place. Oh, how they miscalculated. They've handed her the keys to their downfall, irrefutable evidence of their crimes, undeniable proof of their corruption, and a direct line to the very system they've warped to shield their sins. A storm's gathering, its fury unseen by these arrogant men, but Eleanor knows, by tomorrow her son, the U.S. Attorney General, will wield her truth like a hammer to smash their rotten world. They dared underestimate a retired teacher who's spent decades fighting injustice. Can you feel the seismic shift she's unleashed? Malcolm Davis nods in his D.C. office, his mother's latest lesson sinking deep: never doubt the power of truth. As federal agents swarm, cataloging evidence to build an ironclad case, Eleanor stands watch, her silver hair aglow, knowing her 24 hours in that cell have set off a chain reaction to reshape the city's future. The storm she promised has arrived, and it's only gaining strength. The morning after the federal raid on Precinct 18 dawns cold and gray, a fitting shroud for the panic-gripping Judge William Whittaker. He paces his private chambers, phone glued to his ear, sweat beading on his brow as local news blares non-stop coverage of last night's chaos, his name already tied to the scandal. "We've got to contain this," he barks, voice cracking with desperation. "Dig up dirt on that kid who recorded the arrest. What's his name?"
Jordan Carter.
Chief Bob Callahan's voice, strained even over the line, carries the weight of a man on bail, feeling the noose tighten. "Sir, with the feds circling, I don't give a damn about the feds." Whittaker snaps, cutting him off. "Frame the boy if you have to. We need to discredit any witness before they testify." Can you believe their audacity, scheming even now? Across town, officers Brad Mitchell and Kyle Harris are already on the move, their unmarked car parked outside Jordan Carter's apartment building, eyes locked on the young man as he heads for his early shift at the computer repair shop.
Make it convincing.
Mitchell mutters, checking his gun, his voice low, sinister. They wait, predators in the dawn, until Jordan's halfway to his car. Mitchell steps out, badge flashing, his smile cold as ice. "Mr. Carter, we need to talk about a robbery last night." Jordan freezes, keys clutched tight, his heart pounding. He knows these men from Thompson's Market, knows their cruelty. "I was home all night," he insists, voice steady despite the fear. "I've got witnesses." Harris circles behind, a shark closing in, and Jordan's pulse spikes. He's seen this play before, knows what's coming. Witnesses get it wrong sometimes. Mitchell sneers, his hand slipping into his jacket. They rethink things after a little time. A small bag of drugs appears in his palm, conjured like a dark magic trick, and Jordan's blood turns to ice. He knows his life's about to shatter, and there's nothing he can do. How can this happen again? But fate has other plans.
Across the street, a tiny red light blink in the morning gloom.
Detective Lisa Carter sits in her own unmarked car, her camera capturing every damning second. She knew they'd try to silence witnesses, anticipated this vile move. As Mitchell prepares to find the planted drugs, Lisa hits send on an email to Malcolm Davis's office, her heart racing, attaching her location and live feed. Can she save Jordan? The next moments unfold like a perfectly timed dance. Just as Mitchell moves to pin the drugs on Jordan, 3 unmarked federal vehicles roar in, lights flashing. Mitchell and Harris are slammed face down on the wet pavement, their own cuffs biting their wrists. Jordan stands frozen, heart hammering, as agents scoop up the planted evidence, their cameras documenting the scene. A gentle hand touches his arm, and he turns to see Lisa, her eyes fierce yet kind. "You're safe now," she whispers. "But we gotta get you somewhere secure, they'll try again." Jordan's knees nearly buckle. How close was he to ruin? In his chambers, Judge Whitaker, oblivious to the street's drama, schemes another angle. He drafts an emergency gag order, citing national security and investigative prejudice, his pen slashing the paper. His clerk, Amanda Pierce, watches, unease knotting her stomach as he backdates the document. "Sir," she ventures, voice cautious, "this won't hold up under federal review." Whitaker's laugh is harsh, grating. "It doesn't need to last forever. Just long enough to scrub this mess." He stamps the order with a vicious thud. "Get this to every news outlet. Violators face contempt charges." Does he really think he can silence the truth? But Whitaker's underestimated Malcolm Davis's speed. By the time the gag order hits news desks, Malcolm's already leaked key evidence to trusted journalists. The story's exploding across social media, far beyond Whitaker's grasp, hashtags trending like wildfire. At the federal building, Eleanor sits with investigators, her silver hair catching the light, her voice steady as she recounts every detail from her detention.
Special Agent Rachel Thompson lean forward, eyes sharp.
"Mrs. Davis, you mentioned a protection racket. Can you elaborate?" Eleanor's memory is flawless, her teacher's precision shining. "Officer Wilson bragged about it," she says, voice clear. "Every business in their turf paid security fees. Refuse and they'd hit you with health violations, tickets, even break-ins."
Can you imagine the gall?
As she speaks, another team traces the money, uncovering a trail of laundered funds through shell companies, all leading to accounts tied to Mayor James Kensington and his cronies. Kensington, desperate to save face, calls a press conference on City Hall steps, his trademark smile plastered on despite the pressure. "These claims are baseless," he booms to reporters, his voice smooth but strained. Mrs. Davis's arrest was a regrettable error, handled by the book. Talk of systemic corruption?
Pure misunderstanding.
But the crowd's journalists, armed with Malcolm's leaked proof, doctored reports, financial records, recovered body cam footage, exchange knowing glances.
Kensington's world crumble against the mountain of evidence piling up.
How can he stand there and lie? The real drama's at Precinct 18. Lisa Carter returns to clear her desk, her position now a death sentence among her peers. Hostile stares burn into her as she packs, but she holds steady. Officer Sarah Turner, once a friend, storms up, face twisted with betrayal.
"You sold us out, Lisa." She's.
"Everything we built, everything we fought for, you trashed it." Lisa's hands don't falter, her voice calm but cutting. What we built was rotten, Sarah. We fought for corruption, plain and simple. We kept order.
Sarah snaps, voice hard.
We made this city safe. Lisa looks up, eyes blazing.
Ça for who?
The rich.
The connected? What about Jordan Carter? Eleanor Davis?
When were they safe?
Before Sarah can retort. A commotion érupte.
Federal agents swarm back in, warrants in hand, heading for the records room where decades of case files lie. Lisa watches her ex-colleague scramble, faking cooperation while slipping papers to shredders. Too late. Malcolm's team has cracked the precinct's backup servers, recovering every deleted file, every doctored report. Can justice finally prevail? In his office, Callahan gets a frantic call from Kensington, the mayor's voice trembling with rage. "Make this disappear," he growls. "Or you're done, got it?" Callahan nods, sweat dripping. He's been Kensington's fixer for years, vanishing problems with a flick of his wrist. But this? This is different. They're up against an enemy who won't bend, won't break, won't be bought. In a last-ditch move, he orders his loyalists to target Lisa Carter. "She's the weak link," he snarls. "Take her out, and this collapses." But Lisa's one step ahead. That evening, as two officers creep toward her car, federal agents ambush them. Malcolm saw this coming, shielding his key witness. How does she stay so sharp? Morning breaks with explosive news. A federal judge overturns Whitaker's gag order, and the full story floods the public. News choppers buzz over Precinct 18, filming agents hauling out boxes of evidence. Eleanor watches from Malcolm's office, her face serene, her voice soft but triumphant. "They never got it," she muses. "Their real mistake wasn't arresting me, it was thinking their power made them invincible." Malcolm nods, scanning investigation reports. They ran this scam so long, they forgot the law applies to them too.
À knock interrupte, Sarah Williams, face grave. Sœur, trouble.
Someone leaked Lisa Carter's home address to Callahan's goons. Malcolm's response is instant. Get her out, full protective custody. But Lisa's already vanished to a safe house, carrying more evidence, case files, recordings, a ledger detailing every bribe, every cover-up, every abuse she's seen. Hidden in an old evidence locker, this ledger's a goldmine, dates, amounts, names of every crooked officer. Lisa's been building this case for years, waiting for the perfect moment. Is she the key to it all?
À agent port ouvert the ledger, a chilling pattern émergé.
Precinct 18's corruption isn't alone. It snakes into other precincts, departments, even other cities. The protection racket's just the start.
Kensington, sensing the evidence eswect, triwan last gambi.
He calls an emergency press conference, aiming to spin himself as a reformer rooting out corruption. But as he nears the podium, Malcolm Davis steps forward, voice booming over the stunned crowd. "Mr. Mayor," he calls, holding up financial records. "Care to explain why millions in seized assets funneled to your offshore accounts?" Kensington's face drains of color. He bolts, but federal agents block his path. His arrest, beamed live across every channel, marks a turning point, the city gasping as a titan falls. Can this be the end of his reign? Can the fearless resolve of one woman spark a wildfire that consumes a corrupt empire? In the heart of the federal building, Jordan Carter's voice trembles with raw courage as he pours out his story. Not just Eleanor Davis's brutal arrest at Thompson's Market, but years of relentless harassment and corruption poisoning his neighborhood. His testimony, woven with Lisa Carter's hard-won evidence and Eleanor's razor-sharp observations, paints a chilling portrait of a system rotten to its very core. How can such injustice fester unchecked for so long? Judge William Whitaker, clinging to his crumbling power like a man lost at sea, makes one final desperate play, calling an emergency hearing to bury the avalanche of evidence. But as he strides into his courtroom, hands trembling with dread, he freezes. Federal prosecutors, journalists, and Eleanor herself pack the seats, her serene presence in the front row a quiet, unyielding force. The judge's gavel hovers, but before he can utter a word, a federal marshal steps forward, warrant in hand, voice slicing through the tense air. Whitaker's face drains of color as the marshal declares his arrest, Lisa's ledger laying bare every case he fixed, every bribe he pocketed. Led out in cuffs from his own courtroom, Whitaker's eyes lock with Eleanor's for a fleeting moment, and the truth crashes over him like a tidal wave, they all underestimated her. Saw only an elderly black woman they thought they could crush. Never imagined she'd be the spark to ignite their downfall. Can you feel the seismic shift of justice? The day pulses with relentless momentum. More arrests, more evidence seized, more corrupt officials facing the bitter consequences of their greed. Lisa Carter, tucked away in her safe house, pours her heart into aiding Malcolm Davis's team, unraveling decades of corruption thread by sordid thread. Eleanor returns home that evening, her silver hair catching the soft glow of her living room lamp as she finally sinks into her own bed, the familiar creak of her mattress a small comfort. But her spirit's far from resting. She knows exposing this rot is just the beginning.
The real battle?
Ensuring no one else endures the indignity she faced. As she settles into her favorite chair, the TV hums in the background, reporters detailing the day's upheaval with breathless urgency. The storm she vowed has slammed ashore, reshaping the city's power structure in ways no one could have dreamed. In his office, Malcolm works late into the night, eyes burning as he builds cases to crush those who thought themselves untouchable. On his desk lies Eleanor's pearl necklace, reclaimed from Precinct 18's evidence room, its gentle shimmer a powerful reminder of why this fight matters, and who lit the fuse. The storm's far from over, but the winds of change are howling, and nothing will ever be the same. Morning breaks over the federal courthouse, cold sunlight casting stark shadows across its steps as Eleanor emerges from her son's SUV, her posture unyielding despite the weight of the day. The crowd outside erupts, journalists hurl questions like arrows, cameras flash in a frenzy, supporters wave signs screaming for justice. But Eleanor doesn't falter or rush. She pauses at the step's crest, turning to face the chaos, her voice ringing out with the commanding clarity that ruled classrooms for 40 years. "I am not afraid," she proclaims, her words slicing through the clamor like a blade. "Justice will be served." Can you hear the fire in her voice? Her brief statement sets the air ablaze, social media exploding with clips of this 78-year-old teacher staring down corruption with unshakable dignity. Inside, Malcolm watches the scene unfold on a monitor, a proud smile tugging his lips. He knows that fierce glint in his mother's eyes, the same one she wore when battling school boards to save funding for struggling kids. But the morning's drama is just igniting. As Eleanor navigates the courthouse's tight security, a figure bursts through the doors. Angela Carter, Jordan's mother, her face streaked with tears, hands trembling as she clutches a crumpled paper. "Mrs. Davis," she cries, her voice shattering with desperation. "Please, they're gonna kill my boy." Eleanor grasps Angela's shaking hands, steadying them with her own, her gaze warm yet fierce, a beacon of strength.
"Tell me everything, Mrs. Carter."
Angela's words spill out in a frantic rush. Jordan, still jailed on trumped-up robbery charges, has been transferred to a maximum security prison infamous for accidents silencing witnesses to police corruption. He's just a boy.
Angela sob, her heart breaking into à tous en pièces.
He only wanted to help you. Malcolm, joining them in the bustling lobby, snatches the transfer order, his face darkening as he spots Judge Whitaker's signature, his final act before his arrest. "Get him out." Eleanor's voice is steel, unyielding, a mother's command. Malcolm's already moving, phone pressed to his ear, barking orders. "Sarah, I need an emergency hearing. Pull every incident report from that prison. Focus on witnesses who never made it to trial." The federal justice machine grinds into motion, but time's slipping through their fingers like sand. Can they save Jordan before it's too late? In his cell, Jordan endures the prison's cruel special treatment, guards with Precinct 18 ties making his isolation painfully clear. Their smirks, their veiled threats. How can a young man hold on against such malice? Back at the courthouse, Judge Rebecca Anderson's courtroom buzzes, packed to the rafters for what should have been a routine hearing. Instead, she faces an urgent motion from the U.S. Attorney General himself.
Your Honor.
Malcolm stands tall, his presence commanding, voice resonant with authority. "We have undeniable proof that Jordan Carter's transfer was orchestrated to silence his testimony in our federal investigation." The prison's lawyer, David Thompson, leaps up, objecting with a slick tone.
"This is standard security protocol, Your Honor."
Carter's charged with a violent felony. A felony fabricated by the very officers he was set to expose. Malcolm fires back, slamming down Lisa's latest evidence, security footage of Mitchell and Harris planting drugs on Jordan's car. The courtroom holds its breath as Judge Anderson's eyes narrow, studying the damning video, every second stretching into eternity. Finally, her gavel falls with a resounding crack. This court orders Jordan Carter's immediate transfer to federal custody.
The room exhale, a ripple of obspreding. Justice score a vitalit.
But is Jordan truly safe? Even as Jordan's fate shifts, another battle brews in courtroom 3. Though Whitaker's gone, his replacement, Judge Michael Sullivan, clings to the old guard's playbook with stubborn defiance. Eleanor's civil suit against the police department is being gutted, piece by piece.
Insuffici grund.
Sullivan declares, his gavel's thud echoing with cold finality. Case dismissed. Eleanor sits in the front row, her face a mask of calm, her silver hair catching the courtroom's harsh light, as her attorney swiftly files an appeal. They saw this coming. Sullivan's ties to the corrupt elite are etched in Lisa's ledger, his dismissal just another thread in the tapestry of rot. Malcolm, storming in from Jordan's hearing, seethes with fury. They're still playing their tired games, he mutters to Eleanor, his voice low but burning. They don't see the rules have changed. Then let's rewrite them louder. Eleanor replies, her voice carrying to the journalists in the gallery, her eyes alight with an unquenchable fire. Can they shatter this entrenched corruption once and for all?
The afternoon uneach a tidal wave of revelation.
Journalist Rachel Stevens, fueled by Malcolm's strategic leaks, drops a bombshell exposé that shakes the city to its core. It's not just isolated acts of corruption, it's an entire system engineered to shield itself while preying on the vulnerable. The story spreads like wildfire, social media erupting with raw accounts from victims, confessions from former cops, even court clerks exposing patterns of shady case dismissals. The wall of silence that guarded this corruption for decades is crumbling under the weight of truth. The police union scrambles, calling an emergency press conference to stem the tide. Spokesman Frank Miller steps before the cameras, his voice booming with forced conviction. These attacks are a vicious assault on every honest officer, he insists, sweat beading on his brow. We stand by our members. But his words ring hollow, drowned by the damning evidence in Lisa's ledger, every crime, every enabler laid bare. Each entry unravels more abuse, more lives crushed by those sworn to serve and protect. How can they defend such betrayal? The courtroom reconvenes, packed to bursting with press, public, and a palpable tension that crackles like static. Eleanor takes the stand, her moment of truth forged in the dark hours of her cell. Mrs. Davis, her attorney begins, voice steady, please tell the court what you witnessed during your detention at Precinct 18. Eleanor's voice is clear, her teacher's precision devastating as she recounts every overheard plot, every twisted procedure, every name dropped in careless arrogance. The gallery sits in stunned silence, jaws dropping as she details officers laughing over planted evidence, judges fixing cases for profit, officials pocketing bribes with smug grins. Chief Callahan, slumped at the defense table, sweats profusely as Eleanor recalls his frantic phone calls plotting to destroy evidence. His lawyer slips him a note, "We need a deal." But it's far too late. Malcolm's team has built an unassailable fortress of proof around Eleanor's testimony. Financial records confirm her claims of bribes. Recovered bodycam footage mirrors her vivid accounts. Lisa's ledger aligns with her every detail, a perfect mosaic of corruption. Can any defense stand against this onslaught? A parade of witnesses follows, shop owners bled dry by protection fees, citizens framed for crimes they never committed, officers coerced into corruption or risk losing their careers. Each story stacks onto the last, a towering indictment of systemic abuse that sears into the jury's hearts. During a brief recess, Eleanor sits with Malcolm and his team in a cramped conference room, walls plastered with photos, documents, and charts tracing the corruption's sprawling web. At the center looms an image of Precinct 18, a symbol of the rot they're dismantling. They thought the system was their shield. Malcolm says, his voice thick with awe, studying the evidence. They never dreamed it'd turn on them. Eleanor touches her pearl necklace, its reclaimed shimmer a talisman, her voice warm yet resolute. They forgot systems can be changed, son. That's what I taught my students for 40 years, and it's what we're proving now. The afternoon session brings forensic accountants, their voices steady as they unravel the labyrinthine financial schemes that enriched Callahan, Whitaker, and Kensington, millions in stolen assets siphoned through shell companies, evidence room goods vanishing into thin air. The jury's eyes widen at the staggering figures, but it's the human toll that grips their souls. Jordan Carter, now safe in federal custody, takes the stand, his voice quaking yet resolute as he relives years of profiling, the terror of Mitchell's threats, the crushing despair of watching justice warped before his eyes. "I knew they'd destroy me," he says, his gaze locking with Eleanor's, a spark of shared defiance. "But I couldn't stay silent, not after what they did to Mrs. Davis." Can his bravery inspire a city to rise? The weight of his words hangs heavy, a call to action echoing through the courtroom, the city, and beyond. Can the unyielding courage of one woman spark a revolution that razes a corrupt empire to the ground? In the heart of the federal courtroom, Jordan Carter's voice trembles with raw defiance as he lays bare not just the brutal arrest of Eleanor Davis at Thompson's Market, but a lifetime of relentless harassment and corruption poisoning his neighborhood. His testimony, fused with Lisa Carter's hard-won evidence and Eleanor's razor-sharp observations, paints a harrowing portrait of a system rotten to its core. How can such injustice fester unchecked for decades? The defense attorneys scramble, trying to smear Jordan as a troublemaker nursing a vendetta against the police, but his sincerity shines like a beacon, backed by a mountain of evidence that makes their attacks seem frantic, empty, and utterly desperate. As the day winds down, the courtroom remains packed to the rafters. Nobody dares miss a second of this historic dismantling of corruption. Eleanor sits in the front row, her posture impeccable, her silver hair catching the harsh courtroom lights, her gaze steady as steel as more witnesses step forward. A former court clerk confesses, her voice quaking, to backdating documents on orders from above. A businessman, eyes haunted by fear, recounts how officers extorted protection money, threatening his family's safety when he dared resist. A rookie cop, barely holding back tears, reveals how he was coerced into falsifying reports or faced brutal retaliation. Each story lands like a sledgehammer, cracking the foundation of a corrupt system that seemed invincible just days ago. Can you feel the ground trembling beneath their feet? The jurors scribble furiously, their faces growing graver with every gut-wrenching revelation, their pens racing to capture the depth of betrayal unfolding before them. Chief Bob Callahan, slumped at the defense table, watches his empire crumble, his face paling to a ghostly white with each damning word. His lawyers huddle around him, whispering frantically about plea deals and cooperation, their voices tinged with panic, but Malcolm Davis, the U.S. Attorney General, has made it crystal clear: no deals, no easy escapes, no quiet exits for those who betrayed the public trust. The day's climax arrives with a bombshell that shakes the room, the recovered dashcam footage from Eleanor's arrest. The defense claimed it was lost to technical glitches, a flimsy excuse, but Lisa Carter unearthed it from encrypted files buried deep in Precinct 18 servers. The video plays, raw and unfiltered, exposing the unlawful arrest, the excessive force, the casual cruelty of officers who smirked, thinking they'd never face justice. Eleanor watches the jury's reactions, her heart steady but fierce, her teacher's instincts reading their every expression. She sees shock flash in their eyes, disgust twist their faces, a dawning realization that this isn't just about one arrest or one precinct, it's a system failing its sacred duty to serve and protect all citizens equally. How could they have been so blind to this betrayal? The judge calls for adjournment as the sun dips low, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and red. Outside, the crowd swells. Protesters chanting for justice mingle with reporters hungry for soundbites, their cameras flashing like lightning. Eleanor steps into the fading light, head held high, spirit unbroken, her silver hair glowing like a crown under the twilight sky. A young reporter pushes through the throng, mic thrust forward, voice eager. "Mrs. Davis, how do you feel about today's testimonies?" Eleanor pauses, her teacher's wisdom guiding her words, her voice steady yet resonant with hope. "Today we glimpse the dawn of change," she declares, her words slicing through the clamor like a clarion call. But it's only the start. True justice isn't just about punishing the guilty, it's about building a better system from the ashes of what's broken. Can you hear the promise in her voice? As she walks to the waiting car, Malcolm's steady arm supporting her, Eleanor's mind races to those scarred by this corruption. Jordan Carter, business owners bled dry by bribes, innocent souls languishing in cells on fabricated charges. The storm she vowed is here, not just tearing down the old order but clearing a path for something new, something just, and Eleanor Davis, 78 and unbowed, is leading the charge with the fierce grace of a warrior. Malcolm helps her into the car, pausing before closing the door, his voice low but firm with resolve. "You know they'll appeal, try to drag this out for years." Eleanor's smile is radiant, the same one that lifted countless students to believe in themselves, in justice, in the power of change. "Let them try," she says, her eyes gleaming with unyielding determination. We've got what they never saw coming.
What is that?
Malcolm asks, leaning closer, his admiration for his mother shining through.
The truth.
Eleanor replies, her voice a clarion call that echoes with decades of conviction, and the courage to shout it from the rooftops. As the car pulls away from the courthouse, Eleanor watches the crowd in the rearview mirror, signs waving, cameras flashing, voices rising in a chorus for justice. The system that seemed impenetrable is fracturing, its foundations rocked by the very people it sought to silence. The battle's not over, but the tide has turned, and Eleanor, former teacher turned unstoppable force, is ready for whatever lies ahead. She's spent her life preparing others to fight for what's right. Now she's showing them how it's done with a fierceness that takes your breath away. At precisely 3:17 a.m., a video detonates across social media like a thunderbolt, grainy footage from the maximum security prison where Jordan was briefly held, its timestamp 2 days old, revealing a scene so brutal it sears the soul. Officers William Peters and Scott Davidson, both linked to Precinct 18, slink into Jordan's cell after cameras were supposed to be off, their faces twisted with malice. What they didn't know. Lisa Carter had allies in the prison's IT crew, unsung heroes who ensured a backup system she helped install caught every horrific moment. The savage beating, the chilling threats, the stark warnings about the fate of those who dare testify against cops. Within hours, the footage is everywhere, a viral inferno. Hashtags blaze across platforms, the mayor's office phones crash under a deluge of outraged calls, news choppers buzz downtown as crowds gather outside the courthouse, Precinct 18, and City Hall, their fury a living, breathing force that shakes the city's core. Can this collective rage finally topple the corrupt? Callahan, confined to house arrest but glued to police channels, watches the chaos spiral beyond his grasp, his once iron grip slipping. His phone rings, a secure line he thought untraceable. This ends now. Mayor James Kensington's voice quakes with panic, barely holding back hysteria. Every shred of evidence, every record, every file, burn it all. I don't care how. But it's far too late. Federal agents have locked down every records room, every computer system, every evidence locker in Precinct 18, their movement swift and unyielding. Kensington's order to destroy evidence only piles another charge onto his growing list, a self-inflicted wound. In his opulent office, the mayor's desperation reaches a fever pitch. He summons his biggest donors, power brokers who've propped up this corrupt system for decades, to a clandestine meeting in a private dining room at the exclusive Summit Club, 50 stories above the city's roiling streets. Gentlemen. Kensington addresses the room of suited men, his voice tight with barely contained dread. Our hold on the city's leadership is at stake. We must act now. Real estate tycoon Richard Hamilton, fattened by years of rigged zoning deals, speaks first, his tone brash. How much to make this vanish? We'll fund a payoff, name the price. It's beyond that now, snaps banking executive William Foster, his face etched with grim realization. The feds are in, this changes everything. As they scheme, plotting bribes and cover-ups, none notice the tiny red light blinking under the crystal centerpiece, another of Lisa's hidden recorders, capturing every word, every plot, every damning confession, beaming it straight to Malcolm's office. Can their own arrogance be their undoing? At the federal building, Malcolm's team chases the money trail with dogged precision. Analyst Jessica Reynolds, bleary from sleepless nights, points to a screen flashing with illicit transfers. Look at this, she exclaims, her voice sharp with discovery. Every civil asset forfeiture was meant for city accounts, but they diverted it through a maze of shell companies, ending in offshore accounts tied to Kensington and his donors. The sums are staggering, millions meant for community programs, police training and civic projects, stolen to line corrupt pockets. The paper trail is ironclad, a noose tightening around their necks. Malcolm's face hardens, his jaw set. How long has this been going on? At least 15 years. Jessica replies, her tone heavy. Maybe more. They got sloppy, thinking they were untouchable. The probe swells by the hour, whistleblowers emboldened by Lisa's courage stepping into the light. A permits clerk reveals how building inspections were rigged to favor select developers, her voice shaking but resolute. A former police dispatcher details delayed response times in poor neighborhoods unable to pay for premium protection, her words dripping with shame. Each confession fuels the public's rage. Crowds outside city halls grow louder, their signs demanding justice, reform, accountability, their voices a chorus that won't be silenced. Local news crews broadcast live, capturing protesters' raw tales of encounters with corrupt officers, their stories a mosaic of pain and resistance. In his chambers, Judge Sullivan flails to keep control, issuing injunctions to suppress evidence and gag witnesses, his pen slashing paper in a frantic bid to stem the tide. But federal judges slap down his orders as fast as he writes them, their rulings swift and unyielding. His clerk, Mary Williams, watches with mounting unease as Sullivan's actions grow erratic, his desperation palpable. When he orders her to backdate documents, she quietly adds to the case against this corrupt system, her heart pounding with the weight of her choice. Kensington tries one last stand, calling a press conference on City Hall steps, flanked by hand-picked loyalists, their faces tight with forced smiles. The protesters' chants drift up, a relentless undercurrent. As he speaks, his usual swagger vanished. "My fellow citizens," he begins, voice strained, cracking under pressure, "this is a media-fueled misunderstanding, stoked by outsiders." But Rachel Stevens rises from the press corps, her voice cutting like a blade, holding damning documents aloft. "Mr. Mayor, care to explain these bank transfers siphoning millions from seized assets to your private accounts?" she demands, her tone unrelenting. "Or perhaps your Summit Club meeting this morning?" Kensington's face goes ashen. How do they know his every move? He bolts, shoving through aides and reporters, his polished shoes slipping as he races for a private elevator to the secure garage. But as the doors slide open, Malcolm Davis stands there, his voice cold as ice, his presence unyielding. "Going somewhere, Mr. Mayor?" In that moment, Kensington's world collapses. The system he built on bribes, threats, and corruption crumbles into dust. Federal agents cuff him, their grips firm, as cameras capture his fall, the once mighty man's head bowed in defeat as he's led to a waiting van, a stark symbol of the day's seismic shift. Can this be the end of his reign? But the greatest bombshell is yet to come, a revelation that shakes the city to its foundations. Federal agents, raiding Kensington's lavish mansion, uncover a hidden room concealed behind his study, stuffed with files spanning decades. Every bribe, every fixed case, every corrupt act meticulously documented, a perverse archive of their power. He kept trophies. Sarah Williams gasps, her voice thick with disbelief as she flips through the records, each page a confession of greed. Every pawn he controlled, every lever he pulled, it's all here. Malcolm nods, his expression grim, his resolve unshakable. "He thought this was his insurance, a shield to protect him," he says, voice low but fierce. "Instead, it's our roadmap to dismantle their entire network." Can this discovery finally sever the roots of their corruption for good? The files are a goldmine, each one a thread unraveling the intricate web of deceit that has choked the city for far too long, and Malcolm's team dives in, ready to follow every lead to its bitter end. Can the unwavering courage of one woman spark a revolution that razes a corrupt empire to ashes? In the heart of the federal courthouse, Jordan Carter's voice trembles with raw defiance as he lays bare not just the brutal arrest of Eleanor Davis at Thompson's Market, but a lifetime of relentless harassment and corruption poisoning his neighborhood. His testimony, fused with Lisa Carter's hard-won evidence and Eleanor's razor-sharp observations, paints a harrowing portrait of a system rotten to its core. How can such injustice fester unchecked for decades? The files unearthed from Mayor Kensington's mansion reveal a corruption far vaster than anyone imagined. Judges, politicians, business tycoons, their tentacles slithering into every corner of city government. Each document, each photograph, each recorded conversation adds a new name to the investigation, a new thread in the web of deceit that has choked the city for years. At the courthouse, Eleanor sits with Jordan and his mother, Angela, their eyes fixed on a TV screen blaring news of Kensington's dramatic arrest. Jordan's bruises, stark reminders of his ordeal, still mar his face, but his gaze burns with fierce determination as he reviews his testimony for the grand jury. "They thought they could silence us," he whispers, voice low but resolute, his heart pounding with purpose. "Make us too scared to speak up." Eleanor pats his hand, her touch warm and steady, her silver hair glowing under the courthouse lights, her voice a beacon of strength. "Fear's their weapon, Jordan. Truth's ours." Can you feel the fire in their shared resolve? Outside, the crowd swell, their anger morphing into something electric, determination. Community leaders roll. Why, their voices soaring, calling for reform, oversight, a system rebuilt on justice. No longer just protesting, they're demanding a new dawn, a city reborn from the ashes of betrayal. On his private jet, Judge William Whitaker, fleeing to a country without extradition, feels a fleeting spark of hope, until his phone buzzes with devastating news. His bank accounts are frozen, every escape route he'd meticulously planned blocked, every safeguard shattered by relentless federal pursuit. Federal agents await on the tarmac, their presence almost an afterthought as they cuff him, his tailored suit crumpling under the weight of his fall. As they lead him away, Whitaker's world collapses, and he finally grasps what Eleanor knew from the start: the power they thought made them untouchable has become their undoing. Can you imagine the bitter sting of that realization? Back at Precinct 18, officers stand in stunned silence, their faces pale as ghosts as federal agents methodically collect evidence. Computers are seized, files boxed, decades of corruption dragged kicking and screaming into the harsh light of day. Detective Lisa Carter, now under federal protection in a safe house, holds the key to unlocking countless cases of abuse. Her testimony, paired with years of painstakingly gathered evidence, photos, recordings, financial ledgers, paints a damning picture of systemic failure. It wasn't just about money, she tells investigators, her voice fierce with conviction. It was power, controlling lives, deciding who got justice and who didn't. How could they twist such a sacred duty into something so vile? The investigation explodes beyond the city's borders, other precincts, jurisdictions, and power structures falling under a scorching spotlight. The pattern is undeniable. Precinct 18's rot isn't a lone stain, it's a symptom of a deeper festering disease that spread far and wide. Malcolm Davis, U.S. Attorney General, works through the night, his eyes burning with exhaustion but blazing with purpose as he coordinates with prosecutors to build airtight cases. The evidence is overwhelming: documents, recordings, financial trails, but he knows from years of battling entrenched power that it doesn't yield easily. They'll fight back, he warns his team, voice grim but resolute. They've got resources, allies, influence. We can't leave a single loose end. In the federal building's holding cells, the weight of their collapse crushes the arrested officials. Kensington, stripped of his designer suits and gilded arrogance, looks frail, his age laid bare in the harsh cell light. Callahan, once a commander who ruled with an iron fist, sits mute, refusing even his lawyers, his silence a feeble shield against the inevitable. But Whitaker cracks like brittle glass, his decades of wielding power from the bench shattered as he faces justice from the other side. "I want a deal," he pleads to prosecutors, voice quaking with desperation. "Names, dates, details, people you haven't touched yet." Malcolm listens, his satisfaction cold as ice. "No deals," he snaps, his words cutting deep. "You had years to do right.
Now you face the conséquences."
Can you feel the justice closing in like a vice? The day ends with a cascade of arrests, evidence seized, and corrupt officials confronting the justice they've long denied to others. Lisa, safe in her protected hideout, keeps feeding Malcolm's team vital information, her courage unwavering as she unravels corruption's tangled threads one by one. Eleanor watches it unfold with the patience of a warrior who's fought for change her entire life, her silver hair a quiet crown of resilience. She knows exposing the rot is just the beginning. The true challenge lies in rebuilding trust, forging accountability, creating a system that serves all. As night cloaks the city, crowds linger, their candles and phone lights forming a sea of hope in the darkness, a glowing testament to their resolve. They're not just demanding justice, they're witnessing its arrival, a seismic shift in the city's soul. In his office, Malcolm reviews the day's breakthroughs with his team, his voice steady but charged with urgency. The mayor's hidden files have sparked dozens of new probes, each one a dagger to the heart of corruption. Whitaker's failed escape exposed more secret accounts, their contents spilling like blood. Each arrest unveils fresh connections, new evidence of corruption that stretches like a web across the city. "We're not just taking down a precinct," he declares, eyes blazing with conviction. "We're exposing a system that failed its people, betrayed its very purpose." Eleanor, seated quietly in the corner, nods, her heart swelling with pride. She thinks of her students, how she taught them change is possible, that justice is worth every ounce of fight. Now she's showing them how it's done, her every action a lesson etched in fire. As midnight nears, Eleanor stands at Malcolm's office window, gazing over the city she's called home for 7 decades, her silver hair catching the soft glow of the city lights. Police vehicles and news vans flicker below, the crowds thinner but steadfast, holding an unbroken vigil for justice. "You know," she says to Malcolm, her voice soft but resonant with unshakable conviction, "they thought arresting me would silence one voice. Instead, they woke thousands. Malcolm smiles, seeing the same fierce determination in his mother's eyes that shaped his own path in justice, a legacy of resilience passed from her heart to his. They never grasped what you taught me years ago, he replies, voice warm with admiration. Real power isn't controlling people, it's standing for what's right, no matter the cost. The night stretches on, tomorrow promising new battles, but the tide has turned. The corrupt system, once an impregnable fortress, is crumbling, not by force but by the courage of those who dared to speak truth. Eleanor's promised storm has arrived, reshaping everything in its path, a force of change that echoes far beyond the city's limits. Can this movement rewrite not just a city but a nation's future? At 3 a.m., Precinct 18's basement is eerily silent, a stark contrast to its usual bustle of arrogance and deceit. Callahan, out on bail thanks to his high-priced legal team, gathers his most loyal officers, Mitchell, Harris, Peters, Davidson, in the dimly lit evidence room, their faces grim under flickering fluorescent lights, shadows dancing like ghosts of their past sins. This ends tonight. Callahan hisses, voice barely above a whisper, eyes wild with desperation, his once iron grip slipping through his fingers. Carter and Davis are the keys. Take them out, and this case collapses like a house of cards. Mitchell shifts, unease creeping into his gut, his bravado faltering. Sir, with the feds watching, I don't give a damn about the feds. Callahan's whisper morphs into a harsh rasp, his composure fraying at the edges.
Everything we built, everything we've bled for, is fallen apart.
Fix this now, or we all go down in flames. Can you believe their reckless arrogance, even now? Across town, in a safe house bathed in the soft glow of lamplight, Lisa sits with federal prosecutors, her voice steady as she reviews her testimony, her heart pounding with purpose. Spread before her are years of meticulously gathered evidence, photos, recordings, financial ledgers, each a nail in corruption's coffin. Bonuses were just the start, she explains, pointing to a spreadsheet, her tone fierce with conviction. Officers got extra cash for every false arrest tied to asset forfeiture. The bigger the haul, the fatter their cut, like vultures feasting on the city's bones. Lead prosecutor Andrea Thompson leans forward, eyes sharp with focus. And the judges? Whitaker wasn't alone. Lisa replies, her words heavy with the weight of truth. 3 others were on the take, dismissing complaints, approving shady warrants, whatever the precinct needed. Each had offshore accounts, funneled through the mayor's financial advisor, a pipeline of greed. A fleeting red laser dot flickers on the window behind her, unnoticed in the intensity of the moment. Outside, in a darkened building across the street, Officer Davidson adjusts his sniper scope, heart pounding with the thrill of the hunt. But before he can pull the trigger, the night erupts in a blaze of light and sound. Drop your weapon. Federal agents swarm, their voices a chorus of authority, Malcolm's team having anticipated this desperate, cowardly move. Davidson's cuffed, his face ashen as agents find a burner phone in his pocket, its call log linking straight to Callahan. How close was Lisa to disaster? Callahan's panic spikes to a fever pitch. His phone rings, Whitaker, calling from the cold confines of his holding cell. They're offering a deal. Whitaker's voice quakes, his resolve shattered like brittle glass. Full immunity if I spill everything, bribes, fixed cases, offshore accounts. Take it, and you're a dead man.
Callahan snarl, his threat dripping with venom, a last gasp of control.
But Whitaker's already broken, hours of relentless in-tear. Ogation and the prospect of life in prison loosening his tongue like a floodgate. He spills to prosecutors, dates, amounts, names of every official they've bribed or blackmailed, a torrent of confessions that drowns his former allies. At the federal courthouse, Eleanor takes the stand for her final day of testimony, the gallery packed with journalists and citizens straining to hear every word, their anticipation crackling like static. Her voice, clear and strong as ever, recounts not just her arrest but the systemic corruption she witnessed in Precinct 18's dark heart. They were so sure of their power, she testifies, her eyes blazing with righteous fire. They flaunted their bribes, their cover-ups, believing no one could ever touch them. Police union lawyers try to discredit her, their questions sharp but futile, for Eleanor's recall is flawless. She cites specific conversations, names officers present, details times and locations with the precision of a master teacher, each point backed by Lisa's ironclad evidence or Kensington's own damning files. Can their lies withstand the onslaught of her truth? During a brief recess, Malcolm receives urgent news that sets his pulse racing. His team has raided Callahan's secret storage unit, uncovering a trove of blackmail material, photos, recordings, documents implicating dozens of power players in the city's corruption. He planned for this. Malcolm tells his team, voice taut with a mix of awe and grim resolve, ensuring he wouldn't fall alone. But Callahan plays one last, reckless card. As federal agents swarm his home with a new warrant, he slips through a hidden tunnel in his wine cellar, an escape route built years ago for just such a moment of crisis. His flight triggers a massive manhunt, roadblocks spring up, airports and train stations are locked down, his face plastered on every news channel, a fugitive in the spotlight. Malcolm, anticipating his every move, knows Callahan's headed for the Canadian border, just 4 hours away by car, armed with a fake passport and a stash of emergency cash. But every step of his escape was foreseen, a trap laid with surgical precision. At 3:47 a.m., Callahan reaches the border crossing, his heart pounding with a flicker of hope. He hands over his false passport, his fingers trembling, but the border agent's face remains calm, her voice steady. "Welcome back, Chief Callahan," she says, signaling hidden federal agents who emerge from the shadows. His arrest, devoid of the brutality he once wielded with impunity, is a cold, impartial application of the law he spent decades subverting, a poetic end to his reign of corruption. Can justice finally seal his fate? Can the fierce resolve of one woman ignite a wildfire that consumes a corrupt empire and reshapes a city's soul? In the cold, stark confines of a federal holding cell, Chief Bob Callahan's once ironclad facade shatters like brittle glass. "I want a deal," he roars, voice raw with desperation, eyes wild like a cornered beast. "I'll drag everyone down with me, judges, politicians, business tycoons. I've got dirt on names you haven't even sniffed." Malcolm Davis, U.S. Attorney General, stands outside the cell, his gaze piercing as he studies the man who once ruled Precinct 18 with an iron fist. "No deals." Malcolm snaps, his voice cold and unyielding, slicing through Callahan's frantic plea. "But we'll hear every word, every name, every crime, every sordid detail you've got." And Callahan spills, his words a torrent of betrayal pouring out for hours. He lays bare decades of corruption, detailing with chilling precision how the system preyed on the vulnerable, how they handpicked targets, laundered millions through shadowy accounts, and silenced witnesses with ruthless efficiency. Each confession is a spark, igniting new investigations, fresh arrests, and a cascade of charges that shake the city to its core. Can you feel the tremors of justice ripping through their empire? The prosecution's case swells into an unstoppable juggernaut. Video evidence captures Callahan ordering the vicious assault on Jordan Carter, his voice chillingly casual as he orchestrates brutality. Financial records trace millions in stolen assets snaking through his accounts, a brazen trail of greed. Recovered body cam footage shows him coaching officers on planting evidence, his smirk a badge of arrogance that now haunts him. But the most devastating blows come from his own former allies, men he once commanded with fear. One by one, they take deals, turning on the man who led their corrupt crusade. Officer Brad Mitchell, his bravado shattered, confesses in a hollow voice how they targeted minorities for false arrests, his shame palpable. Kyle Harris, eyes downcast, details the protection racket that bled local businesses dry, each word a nail in Callahan's coffin. Every testimony piles another crushing layer onto the mountain of evidence, a towering indictment of their betrayal that leaves no room for doubt. How could they ever think they'd escape the long arm of justice? In court, the prosecution unveils a bombshell video of Callahan and Judge William Whitaker plotting bribes, their voices dripping with smug certainty as they trade justice for profit. The courtroom falls deathly silent, jaws dropping as two pillars of the justice system are exposed casually conspiring to pervert it. "Your Honor," the prosecutor declares, addressing Judge Rebecca Anderson, her voice ringing with unshakable conviction. "The government has proven not just isolated crimes but a systematic assault on the very foundations of justice in this city." Defense lawyers flail, grasping at procedural straws, challenging evidence on flimsy technicalities. But the weight of proof is crushing, an avalanche no argument can stop. Years of Lisa Carter's meticulous documentation, Eleanor Davis's unflinching testimony, and Callahan's own damning records paint an undeniable portrait of corruption that sears into the courtroom's collective soul. Can any defense withstand this relentless onslaught of truth? The jury's deliberation is shockingly swift, a mere 6 hours before they return, the courtroom hushed, every breath held in anticipation. The foreman stands, voice steady but heavy with the weight of history. In the matter of United States versus Callahan, on the charge of conspiracy to violate civil rights under color of law, we find the defendant guilty. The verdicts roll on like thunder: guilty on racketeering, guilty on obstruction of justice, guilty on witness tampering. Count after count, the jury condemns not just Callahan's actions but the entire rotten system he helped forge, a seismic reckoning that electrifies the air. Mayor James Kensington's trial follows, a spectacle of arrogance laid bare. Evidence exposes his kickbacks from every major city contract, rigged bids favoring his loyal donors, and seized assets funneled to his lavish lifestyle of private jets and sprawling estates. His downfall? His own hubris. He kept meticulous records of every bribe, every favor, every illegal deal, stashed in a secret room in his mansion. Those files, now in prosecutors' hands, are a roadmap to his corruption, each page a confession of greed that seals his fate. How could he be so reckless, so blind to his own undoing? Judge Whitaker's fate is sealed by his own damning words, a bitter irony. Surveillance footage from his chambers shows him brazenly discussing fixed cases, coaching officers on crafting unassailable reports, orchestrating the disappearance of evidence with a flick of his wrist. His sentence is merciless: life in prison without parole, the justice system he twisted now locking him away forever, a stark warning to others. But these trials aren't just about punishment, they're a revelation. Each proceeding unveils the corrupt system's mechanics, how it preyed on the vulnerable, shielded itself with lies, and thrived in the shadows. This knowledge fuels new policies, oversight measures, and protections to ensure such betrayal never festers again. Malcolm stands in his office, watching federal agents lead another wave of arrested officials into the courthouse, his heart heavy but resolute, his mission clear. Eleanor sits nearby, her silver hair aglow under the soft office light, reading letters from citizens pouring out their own tales of injustice, their words a testament to the movement she sparked.
This is bigger than we ever imagined.
Malcolm says, reviewing the latest reports, his voice taut with awe. This pattern, it's not just our city, it's everywhere. Eleanor nods, her wisdom unshaken, her eyes gleaming with quiet fire. Power always protects itself, son. But we've shown it's not invincible. Can their fight ignite a national reckoning? Reform efforts surge forward like a tidal wave. Policies now mandate independent monitoring of body cam footage, a safeguard against tampering. Civilian oversight boards rise with real power to probe complaints, their authority unshakable. Asset forfeiture laws are rewritten to slam the door on abuse, ensuring public funds serve the public. But the deepest shift is in the public's heart. People who once accepted police misconduct as an inevitable evil now demand accountability with a unified voice. Communities once cowed by corrupt officers organize, document, and speak out, their voices swelling into a chorus that refuses to be silenced. Jordan Carter, his bruises faded but his spirit unbreakable, becomes a symbol of this new era, a beacon for the oppressed. His testimony on police brutality, paired with the ironclad evidence of corruption, ignites nationwide debates on justice reform, his words echoing in homes and halls across the country. They thought fear would crush us, he tells reporters outside the courthouse, his voice steady, eyes alight with purpose. But fear only works when you're alone. Together, we're stronger than their corruption. Lisa Carter's whistleblowing lights a fire, inspiring officers nationwide to step into the light. Her meticulous records become a blueprint for exposing systemic abuse, a masterclass in dismantling corruption from within. The final trials target the sprawling conspiracy, business leaders profiting from corruption, politicians shielding it, officials enabling it with a nod and a wink. Each proceeding unveils more crimes, more abuse, a relentless peeling back of the city's darkest layers. Real estate mogul Richard Hamilton is convicted for bribing officials to ignore building code violations, his empire crumbling like sand. Banker William Foster faces charges for laundering protection racket funds, his wealth no shield against the law's reach. One by one, the untouchables fall, their arrogance their downfall. In his cell, Callahan watches news of the ongoing probes, his system, once an impregnable fortress, dismantled piece by shattered piece. His failed escape to Canada only lengthened his sentence, a futile flight from justice. In a last meeting with prosecutors, arranged by his lawyer in a vain hope for leniency, Callahan shows no remorse, his defiance a hollow echo. "You think this changes anything?" he sneers, voice dripping with bitter scorn. The system always protects itself. Malcolm, across from him, shakes his head, his voice calm but cutting like a blade. No, Chief. The system's correcting itself. The laws you twisted are now your chains, binding you to the justice you denied others. The prosecution's closing argument in Callahan's final appeal is a defining moment, a clarion call that resonates beyond the courtroom. The prosecutor, standing before the appeals court, speaks not just of specific crimes but of a profound betrayal of public trust. The defendants didn't just break laws, she declares, her voice ringing with unshakable conviction, her words searing into the room. They corrupted the very institutions meant to uphold them. They stole not just money or power but the people's faith in justice itself. The court's unanimous ruling upholds every conviction, every sentence, locking the corrupt behind bars for life, a verdict that echoes like thunder. As news spreads, the city erupts in joyous celebration. Streets and parks fill with people sharing tales of survival, resistance, and justice finally won. Eleanor watches from Malcolm's office, her teacher's heart swelling with pride at the lesson her city's learned. Systems can be changed, justice is possible, even against the mightiest odds. What's next? Malcolm asks, standing beside her, his voice a mix of exhaustion and hope. Eleanor's smile, the one that lifted generations of students, shines like a beacon. Now the real work begins, son. Creating change is tougher than exposing corruption, but we've shown it's within our grasp. Can their vision rebuild a city's trust? Outside, the sun sets on a transformed city, its citizens awaken to their collective might. Eleanor's storm has cleared the way for a new era, and she, with countless others, will ensure it endures, a legacy of justice forged in fire. 6 months later, Eleanor walks down Adams Street, the path to Thompson's Market where her fight began, her steps steady despite her 78 years. The neighborhood pulses with renewed life, tension and fear replaced by a vibrant community spirit. She pauses outside the market, now under new, honest management, its sign gleaming in the morning sun, a symbol of rebirth. Inside, diverse customers shop freely, their faces unshadowed by wary glances. Mrs. Davis, a young clerk, her former student from decades past, waves through the window, her smile bright, drawing warm nods from others who know Eleanor's legend. She carries her fame with the grace of a teacher who's always put others first. It feels alive now, says Sarah Williams, Malcolm's chief of staff, joining her walk, her voice filled with awe. People breathe easier without that cloud of fear. Eleanor adjusts her pearl necklace, the one she wore during her arrest, now a powerful symbol of resilience, her voice steady and warm. That's what happens when justice takes root, when people reclaim their power. Can this transformation last? Precinct 18's old building has been reborn as a community center for civil rights education, its former evidence room now a public space where citizens review body cam footage and police reports alongside civilian advisors. Lisa leads a police integrity unit, her testimony sparking probes across the nation. The old system thrived on fear, she tells rookie officers in a training session, her voice firm. We're building one rooted in trust and transparency. Her words carry the weight of her sacrifice, a beacon for ethical policing. Jordan's journalism scholarship, funded by seized corrupt assets, fuels his exposés on injustice, his pen a sword for truth. Your courage started this, he tells Eleanor, interviewing her for his latest piece, his voice thick with gratitude. You showed us silence isn't an option. Courage spreads like wildfire, Jordan, she replies, her teacher's wisdom shining. People just need to see it to find their own. Can this legacy of bravery endure, inspiring generations to come? Can one woman's unyielding courage ignite a wildfire that not only topples a corrupt empire but reshapes the very soul of a nation?
In the cold, unforgiving walls of a federal holding cell, Chief Bob Callahan's once impenetrable armor shatter like brittle ice.
I want a deal, he bellows, his voice raw with desperation, eyes darting wildly as if searching for a lifeline in the suffocating darkness. I'll drag everyone down with me, judges, politicians, business moguls. I've got dirt on names you haven't even dreamed of touching. Malcolm Davis, U.S. Attorney General, stands just beyond the bars, his gaze sharp and unyielding, studying the man who once ruled Precinct 18 with terror and greed. No deals. Malcolm snaps, his voice a blade of cold steel slicing through Callahan's frantic plea. But we'll hear every word, every name, every crime, every sordid detail you've buried. And Callahan unravels, his words spilling like a dam burst open, hours of confessions pouring forth. He lays bare decades of corruption, exposing with chilling precision how the system preyed on the vulnerable, hand-picked targets with ruthless calculation, laundered millions through shadowy accounts, and silenced witnesses with brutal efficiency. Each revelation is a spark, igniting a chain reaction of new investigations, fresh arrests, and a cascade of charges that shake the city to its core. Can you feel the seismic tremors tearing through their empire? The impact of Eleanor Davis's case ripples through the justice system like a tidal wave. Judge Rebecca Anderson, who presided over the corruption trials with steely resolve, now leads a commission on judicial reform, her mission to ensure such betrayal never festers again. Her first act is to establish ironclad guidelines for police misconduct cases, guaranteeing they can't be buried or dismissed without rigorous scrutiny. The corruption we uncovered wasn't just crooked individuals breaking laws, she declares at a public hearing, her voice ringing with conviction. It was a system that lost its way, abandoning its purpose. Our reforms must heal both. Can her vision restore faith in justice? In federal prison, Callahan watches these changes unfold on a flickering TV, his power, once absolute, reduced to dust. Officers who once cowered under his command now testify against him in ongoing probes, their voices a chorus of betrayal. Mayor James Kensington's fall is a spectacle of shattered pride. His polished image as a civic leader lies in ruins, crushed by evidence. The offshore accounts Eleanor overheard in her cell led to hundreds of millions in stolen public funds. Their recovery, under federal oversight, breathes life into ravaged communities, funding programs, schools, and infrastructure in neighborhoods bled dry by corruption. How can such stolen wealth now heal the wounds it caused? Judge Whitaker's fate is a stark warning to those tempted by power's dark allure. 3 months into his life sentence, he dies in prison, his legacy not one of judicial wisdom but of corruption and betrayal. His death makes headlines, but few shed tears, his name a cautionary tale. Eleanor's spark has grown into a reform movement that surges beyond the city, inspiring other communities to scrutinize their own power structures. Police departments nationwide face relentless scrutiny, civilian oversight boards gaining real authority to hold them accountable. Malcolm, despite tantalizing offers like a Supreme Court nomination, stays at the grassroots, forming a task force to root out systemic corruption in law enforcement. My mother's case taught us, he tells his team, voice fierce with purpose, corruption doesn't just happen, it's enabled when people look away. Our job is to keep looking, questioning, demanding accountability. Can his mission transform policing across the nation? Eleanor's influence weaves into unexpected corners. Law schools adopt her case for ethics courses, dissecting. How one woman's stand exposed systemic rot. Police academies weave lessons from the investigation into training, hammering home the cost of power's abuse. Community groups craft bold strategies to document and challenge injustice, inspired by her example. The old evidence locker at Precinct 18, where Eleanor overheard corrupt plots, now houses a civil rights library, its walls adorned with photos of the community's fight, including one of Eleanor in handcuffs, head high, dignity unbroken, a symbol of resistance. Lisa Carter's whistleblowing sets a fire, inspiring a nationwide network of police integrity officers sharing tactics to sniff out corruption. Her documentation methods become a gold standard for internal affairs. Eleanor Davis showed us. Lisa tells trainees, voice alight, truth, spoken boldly and backed by evidence, is our mightiest weapon against corruption. How can one woman's stand ripple so far? Community attitudes shift seismically, people awakening to their power to demand accountability. Neighborhood watch groups evolve into civilian oversight committees, their voices unyielding. Businesses once extorted for protection money now fund community projects, their generosity a rebuke to past oppression. Jordan Carter's journalism career soars, his articles exposing corruption in other cities, sparking probes and reforms. His scholarship program, funded by seized corrupt assets, empowers young reporters to chase truth. Every story matters, he tells peers, voice firm. Every voice deserves a platform. Mrs. Davis proved that by refusing to be silenced. The community center replacing Precinct 18 becomes a national model, its programs fostering civil rights education and bridges between police and residents. Officer Sarah Turner, once Lisa's skeptic, now leads ethical policing workshops, her perspective transformed. We were wrong, she admits at a public forum, voice raw. Power isn't control, it's trust, serving the community, not crushing it. Can these changes endure? Eleanor's pearl necklace, lost during her arrest, becomes a potent symbol of resistance. Local artists weave its image into murals celebrating community strength. Young activists don pearl necklaces at protests, honoring her dignified stand. Challenges persist. Some officers quit rather than face accountability, others resist reforms, claiming they endanger policing. But data proves otherwise. Trust fosters cooperation, making streets safer for all. Malcolm's choice to decline a Supreme Court nomination stuns many, but not those who know him. Real change happens in communities, not just courtrooms, he says, echoing his mother. Justice is built from the ground up. Eleanor's storm has spread nationwide. Former Officer Mitchell in prison, showing remorse in a restorative justice session. "We thought we were above the law," he admits, voice breaking. Mrs. Davis proved no one's untouchable when people unite for justice. Her case is required reading in civil rights courses, a masterclass in dismantling corruption. Police academies study it, underscoring ethical policing's urgency. The Civilian Oversight Board, diverse and empowered, meets monthly in Precinct 18's old building, ensuring transparency in law enforcement. A year after the verdicts, Eleanor sits in her rocking chair, reading Jordan's letter, his words a testament to her impact. "You changed my life, Mrs. Davis, and I'll dedicate mine to changing others. Your lesson wasn't just fighting corruption, it was believing truth can transform communities." Her smile, warm and timeless, recalls her 40 years teaching. This final lesson, justice, courage, standing firm, perhaps her greatest. The community heals, stronger daily. New businesses bloom where extortion once ruled. Gardens flourish in once neglected lots. Streets, once fear zones, hum with life. Lisa's police integrity unit sets a national standard, her records a guide for exposing abuse. Seized corrupt assets fund parks, schools, youth programs, restoring what was stolen. Eleanor's influence reaches civil rights groups, her observation and documentation a model for challenging power. Her victory's final scene is quiet, profound. Eleanor in her rocking chair, Jordan's letter in her lap, her pearl necklace catching the sunset's glow. She reflects on the transformed city, fear replaced by hope, but knows the constants: truth's power, courage's necessity, justice's endless pursuit. The fight never ends, but Eleanor's shown victory's possible. Systems can change, justice can prevail. Her story inspires others to stand, speak, demand accountability. As darkness falls, she smiles, knowing someone somewhere is finding their courage. Her storm cleared the way for growth, its true measure in the city's rebirth. How many Eleanor Devises are out there, watching corruption, gathering evidence, awaiting their moment to speak truth? How many systems still need exposing?
Justice's battle never ends, it finit warriors.
Like and subscribe for more stories of courage. Hit that notification bell to join our justice-seeking community.